Today we have a variety of NHL trade rumors to discuss, including the latest on Canucks captain Bo Horvat. A new surprise team is apparently interested, according to Elliotte Friedman. Plus, we're going to discuss the possibility of a trade between the Maple Leafs and the Seattle Kraken. The latest intel suggests they may be talking about a potential deal that would satisfy needs on both sides. Plus, we also have some trade talk involving the Calgary Flames, New York Islanders, St. Louis Blues, Florida Panthers, and a few others, including the Nashville Predators. Lots of updates as well, including the latest prospects and some action around the junior leagues and trades possibly involving a top prospect like Shane Wright. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a lot to talk about today. First up, we do have some more rumors around the junior players and some prospects. First up, the Montreal Canadiens have officially announced today they're returning 3 players back to their junior squads. A few of these guys, actually all of these guys, were in the World Junior Championships, including Josh Valois of Team Canada, heading back to the Quebec League. Owen Beck, of course, was loaned to Team Canada, heads back to the OHL Mississauga, and Philip Mesar as well, after representing his country, goes back. He'll play in the OHL as well. So certainly those 3 players heading back. So are likely expecting a big trade in the Ontario Hockey League, including Kraken top prospect and number 4 overall selection from the 2022 NHL draft, Shane Wright. We know the Seattle Kraken decided to keep him in the NHL. Obviously, up until the time it was to go to the World Juniors, he didn't play a lot. He saw some low playing time. Had a little bit of a conditioning stint in the American Hockey League, which was permitted due to the lack of playing time before going to the World Juniors. And then, of course, he played for Team Canada as the captain, helped them win the gold medal here in the tournament that just wrapped up in the last couple of days. Now, of course, he's now confirmed to go back to the OHL, but the condition was they only wanted to see him head back to the Ontario Hockey League if he was going to be traded and have a chance to go on a deep playoff run in the junior league. So right now, we talked a few days ago about some teams that were likely in the mix, and it sounds a lot like the London Knights is the most likely landing spot that we should see a right trade to. They're likely getting somewhere around anywhere from 5 or 6 draft picks, as well as a top young prospect who I believe is going to be draft eligible this coming year. So certainly a big move for London. We know the Knights are certainly always one of the top junior clubs and certainly, produce a lot of NHL talent. So good spot for him to go and develop under the Hunter brothers tutelage. And we'll see once that deal gets completed. But that is expected to likely go through. At least that's the way things are looking. There were some other teams in the mix like Peterborough and the Ottawa 67s and I think 1 or 2 others as well. But right now, all indications are Shane Wright will end up in the London Knights organization. Now, we have a variety of trade rumors to take a look at, some of which come from the 32 Thoughts segment on Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday night, and a bunch of others come from Frank Seravalli, dailyfaceoff.com. But on Saturday night, Elliotte Friedman on 32 Thoughts, along with Jeff Merrick, was talking about a new team that's he feels is likely in on Bo Horvat, and that's a surprising Seattle Kraken. Now, it might be a little bit more challenging to pull off a trade for the division rival. Sometimes, obviously, teams make their division rivals sometimes pay more for trades because, obviously, if they're going to help them, get further up in the standings, that's quite common. It's not always the case, but it is a common practice. Of course, Seattle in their second year are trending in a good direction. When you look at their roster, to me, they're, it's an underrated team. Could they use more of a game-breaking goal scorer? Absolutely, they could. That would absolutely be something to help them get pushed up the rankings here and have a better chance of not only making the playoffs, but succeeding in the playoffs and winning a round or 2 or more. Obviously, right now things are trending that they have good odds of being a playoff team. Of course, Bo Horvat's on pace to already be a 30-goal scorer already in the season. There's still half a year to go. So, will Bo Horvat hit 50 or 60 goals? It's possible, but I'm not sure exactly what they could be looking at. But they certainly do have some decent prospects that they've accumulated here in their 2 seasons that might be of interest to the Canucks. We'll have to wait and see where things go, but a bit of a surprise. But the Kraken are not going to be a team that I don't think is going to be just kind of sitting idly by. We could also see a trade involving the Kraken and the Toronto Maple Leafs, maybe sending Alex Kerfoot to the Kraken, who I know many thought Kerfoot was going to be the selection at the expansion draft from Toronto. That was the rumor. I know we had seen leaked video footage because, of course, the Kraken made a big display when they were announcing their selections, and they had some leaked video footage of announcing Kerfoot. It ended up, of course, being Jared McCann, who they had acquired from Pittsburgh in a trade, basically to set up for the Kraken to take either him or Kerfoot. But it turned out later we learned that the Seattle Kraken had made videos of a variety of players, and that it didn't matter who they picked. They had the video footage to go along with the event to make all the announcements. But still, it was believed that Kerfoot was a player of interest to them and something they could seriously consider doing at that time. And just they decided to go the route of McCann. And certainly he's worked out quite nicely for the Kraken here so far. Now, of course, Toronto, according to Sarah Valley, his main interest is adding on the blue line. So the defenseman that he feels that they're likely looking at is Carson Soucy. Now, this could be a swap to help both clubs. They're in separate conferences. They'd only meet in the playoffs, of course, if they both make it all the way to the Stanley Cup final. So it wouldn't be completely shocking to see them do more of a hockey trade, not necessarily, a pending UFA as a rental for picks or prospects, which is what a lot of common deals you see at the deadline as teams like that doing those types of deals. But we could see an Alex Kerfoot for Carson Soucy trade, maybe even a one-for-one deal. There could be something else involved. Maybe it's a later round pick. Maybe it's a prospect. I don't know. If you take a look at it, they're both pending unrestricted free agents. Soucy makes $2.75 million. Kerfoot makes $3.5. So if they did a straight up trade, Toronto would actually not only get a defenseman that could be the similar type of defender as Jake Muzzin and add some size and strength to that blue line, but they could save cap space in the meantime as well. That would be a fantastic deal for them. Now, of course, they have a pretty lethal offense already. Kerfoot, I find, is a player that I think they struggle to find the right spot for. I don't see him returning to the club after the season where his contract is expiring. I don't think he's a long-term fit with the Leafs. I can see them trying to find some cheaper alternatives here with some different players next year. Could the Kraken and the Leafs pull off a deal finding Alex Kerfoot going to Seattle? I wouldn't surprise me in the Leafs. It does make some sense. We'll have to wait and see if things materialize there. Of course, the latest reports also indicate that the New York Islanders are interested in Blues winger Vladimir Tarasenko. Now, of course, Tarasenko and Blues captain Ryan O'Reilly, who are both heavily mentioned in the rumor mill and certainly highly speculative of players that are going to be dealt at the deadline, or find themselves on injured reserve right now, so he's going to be out for a period of time, but he is expected to be back before the deadline. Now, the Islanders, I understand the team being linked there. To me, they're right now just basically tied or on the outside, just looking at that wild card spot. Now, they're in the mix for sure, but they do need to have a good run. They're certainly not going to make a move now, but Lou Lamoriello has sat relatively quiet when it comes to various deals for the last number of months. We do expect at some point something's got to give here, and he's got to bring in something to help this team. The way it's constructed and built as is, even though they changed coaches, I don't see them getting too far without another addition to add another offensive player. They got an all-star goaltender in Sorokin. They do have a good blue line when everybody's healthy. I think the main area they need to add is a top-scoring, hopefully game-breaking type of forward. Ideally, somebody who can play with Matthew Barzal and strengthen his line. Barzal's a very dynamic forward, and to me, I know they've found short-term success with a variety of players in that organization, but a guy like Tarasenko could be a game changer for them. So the deal there would make some sense. Hard to say exactly what the price tag would be, but as I mentioned before, Tarasenko has some say in where he goes. And because of that, he's going to be able to possibly call his own shot, and he would only go to the Islanders if that's what he wanted to do. Does he want to do that? We don't know. It probably would boil down to what other teams are interested, where the Islanders are going to sit in the standings in a number of weeks' time into the future, once we're closer to the deadline. Like I said, I understand the concept. It does make a lot of sense, but it's something that I think is going to be more of a iffy scenario, depending on where things stand, say in about a month from now as we get closer to that deadline and have a better idea where things are going to stay. Now, Frank Seravalli is also reporting a variety of things, including Calgary, Florida, Nashville. There's some other things to take a look at here. The Calgary Flames are highly expected to want to add a top 6, ideally top 9 forward. Seravalli suggests that they're interested in Anthony Duclair of the Florida Panthers. Of course, Duclair missed significant time this year due to an injury suffered in the offseason, just returned. Of course, the Panthers do have some cap issues that they would, if they want to make additions or whatnot, they're going to have to subtract before they can add. And right now the Panthers aren't even on a playoff spot. They're struggling this year after pulling off that blockbuster trade with the Flames. They could hook up again, but right now that blockbuster trade is not getting them further ahead for the time being. They went from the President's Trophy winners last year to possibly missing the playoffs this year. They're already a good amount behind. To be honest, I don't like their odds of getting into the playoffs. So if Florida is going to make a move, to me it's setting themselves up for the offseason for the future. So this may be something that is possibly held off on. They're not going to be probably feeling as pressed to make a move unless they decide to go at this early, and we see GM Bill Zito decide that I got to make a move now, not at the deadline, but now, sooner, like in the next little bit here, to get this team a better chance in the playoffs. But we know when you're 8-10 points out this time of year, the odds of you getting in are extremely slim. So even if he does make a move, it could be too little too late. But the rumor is that the Flames have interest in Anthony Duclair. Of course, we do know that the big weakness on Florida is their blue line. There's no doubt about that. Calgary does have an extremely strong blue line. Maybe they'd be willing to part with somebody there who could help Florida while getting one of their forwards like Duclair. Would they even maybe see about getting Sam Bennett back? I don't know if they'd want to have interest in that or not, because Seravalli also says that he believes at the end of the day, the Panthers, whether they trade Duclair or not, he said he also feels like they have a deal in their back pocket for either Bennett or Sam Reinhart. So either one of the Sams appears like they probably have something lined up, a team that's interested. They have something they're willing to do as well, but they just kind of want to hold off, I think, and see where things go with the standings before they pull the trigger. So to me, Reinhart, Duclair, or Bennett likely don't make it as a Panther past the deadline. It's just a matter of where things go, and the likely return on any of them would be a defenseman. Now, another team, if it's not Calgary that this is done with, or unless they do multiple deals, could also be the Nashville Predators, because it has been reported that Matthias Ekholm is available for trade in Nashville. They would certainly want to add some offense in return if they can. Ekholm comes with term though, so they certainly won't be more interested in a guy like Bennett or Reinhart. They'd want somebody who they can feel like they can not only keep for the year, but to extend as well. Of course, Nashville's not in a great position playoff-wise either, so this would be more of a hockey trade if they did that to kind of help both sides. Ekholm for one of their forwards does make sense, but at the same time, I think the Predators are going to proceed cautiously with an Ekholm trade. I don't think it's something they absolutely want to do. It's something that they're willing to do if they find the right deal. So we'll have to stay tuned for that. But the Panthers are a team I expect to be busy. I think Calgary, who's been an up and down, inconsistent year, is certainly going to want to add another scoring forward as well. And it just makes a lot of sense that a team like Florida might be the team they turn to hook up once again on a reasonably significant trade. But they're not going to top what they did before involving Tkachuk and Huberdeau. That was one of the biggest blockbusters of the past decade. So that is all your news and rumors for tonight. So certainly let me know your thoughts on all these potential trades down in the comments. As time goes on and we get closer to the deadline, the rumor is likely going to heat up. We will start to see some activity soonish, but at the same time, a lot of teams are confined by the cap right now, and they're trying to get through those cap gymnastics before they can pull the trigger and make some moves. So as they get closer to the deadline, it does get easier as they accrue cap space. So let me know your thoughts on all of that down in the comments. We'll talk about it further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.